Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, Ingenious Thinkers, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of ingenuity. My name is Ken Tencer, curator of Say Hi to the Future, helping leaders think differently in the face of uncertainty and ambiguity. Better thinking, better outcomes. With me today is John McCabe, Senior Design Manager for Watsonx at IBM. Welcome to Say Hi to the Future, John.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
And you were actually on stage at our very first conference. It was down in Columbus. It was during what I would call a little bit of a break in the pandemic. We had people seating miles apart and rows apart, but we learned a lot. So how have you been since then? A lot of changes.
A lot of changes in what I've been working on, a lot of changes in life, and a lot of changes in society. But I mean, I do think back to that because it was kind of like a precipice of us coming out of something. And for me, and what I'm focused on, it's into the whole new world of AI was really starting to take off at that time. So it was a lot of things happening kind of all at once. But I think back to that time quite a bit, actually.
And so here you are, leading global AI design teams at IBM. I mean, what led you to IBM, and when did you realize sort of the intersection of creativity and design where I came to know you, and now technology is where you belonged?
Well, so my first life, I've been through like 3 different career lives, maybe even more, depending on how far you go back. But there was a moment, actually, now that I'm thinking about it live here, it's like even when I was in architecture school, a lot of my peer group were focused on building amazing architecture. And a lot of times I would try to figure out ways to embed technology or interesting technological advancements into the physical experience. And it didn't really click that I wasn't necessarily going to be a physical architect at that time. I just thought I was more interested in computers and technology than others. And then fast forward through industrial design, where I went to school also for that, but then into being a professor of design. I spent a lot of time working with companies that were trying to figure out what the next whatever is that they're trying to build is going to be. Some experience, right? Could be the new BMW experience, the new Disney experience, or whatever that was. And each one of those was the infusion of some bleeding edge technology into some service experience, some physical space, some physical product, some whatever it was. And that's when I really fell in love with the idea of like humanity and technology kind of coming together. And what does that dance look like? And that was kind of the moment where, okay, maybe I'm a little different because I love those ambiguous worlds of like how all this comes together. And a lot of other leaders focused in that same academic setting weren't thriving in the same way. And so that's when I realized there was something slightly different, which then took me to robotics and a startup AI. Robotics in a startup. And we focused on my team focused on how do we build on the moon with regolith. That's the soil, quote unquote, soil that's on the moon. And that was a whole nother career, which I did for about 4 years. And then now at IBM, which I've also been here for about 4 years.
So the moon sounds really cool, John, but I mean, in this heat, it's tough to find the right soil to grow things in our backyards.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. I got to work with some of the smartest people ever. Partnered with the Innovation Lab at Stanford University and Foster and Partner Architects. They have a really robust off-world architecture program, and the team at Branch Technology in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The triptych of that partnered with NASA was a really great combination. And so Branch is the consultant that is destined to build out all of the off-world 3D printing technology capabilities for outfitting. So there's habitat printing, and then there's outfitting. So the tables, the chairs, the solar arrays, the antennas, everything else that's not the habitat was what we were focused on printing. So really cool exploration. Wow. I mean, we can talk about it, but it's like your underwear that you wear when you're there, the food packets that you get, the storage bins, all at one point were different plastics. And so there was no way to recycle those into pellets in order to print anything anywhere else. They would literally, on the space station, they take that and they compress it down and then they shoot it into the atmosphere and it burns up, and they lose all of that great material to burn up in the atmosphere. So we were trying to figure out a way to take that material, pelletize it again, mix it with the regolith from the moon, and mix it with a protein that is excreted out of the food, algae or whatever that you're growing. So you could have algae for lunch, and you can squeeze some out and mix it with all that other stuff to make a really good printing medium for whatever you're making. So material science is definitely not my world, but I learned a ton working with those smart people.
John, I got to say, I've never seen somebody talk about algae for lunch with such enthusiasm as you just did.
Well, it's definitely not my daily go-to, but.
And let's talk about something you mentioned before. Now, today was a really cool day for me. I have to defend it, but I uploaded my doctoral dissertation.
Congratulations.
Final draft. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like literally about an hour or so ago, and it's on human ingenuity. So
amazing.
Clever, inventive, fearless thinking in the face of uncertainty. And what I want to do next, I mean, I talk a lot about not just human ingenuity and artificial intelligence, but human ingenuity and artificial ingenuity, understanding when computers will be able to think and process emotions and gut intellect the way that people can. So where are we today? You know, we hear so much about AI, but where are we in that human AI collaborative state?
I mean, collaborators, we're getting close. Are we delegating anything to them for, and having that autonomy? Probably not, in a sense that we really want to. It's not an Iron Man situation where you're letting the computer Jarvis go do everything around your life. But I think in the small task-based thing, go do a task. There's enough parameters for them to be successful, and then in turn, human to be successful, that the task is completed. And I think it depends on who you talk to. There's some that have really high expectations, and there's some that have really low expectations of AI. And those that have low expectations think we're right there. This is amazing. We're at the precipice of a new age. And there's others that are really focused on ethics and governance that we still have a little bit of ways to go. But we're definitely at the point where you can launch an agent or a very a focused AI, and they can tackle a lot of really complex tasks that take 5 minutes or 3 or 4 days, depending on what they need to do to accomplish that. So, I mean, it depends on who you are. Some people will say we're at the edge of the abyss before we drop down to disillusionment, and others maybe think we're hitting the plateau, just depending on what you're focused on and what industry you're in.
And what I say to people to put them at ease, because I mean, for the average business person today, AI is this, I don't know, you go to conferences, it's the two letters that drives me insane. I mean, we're always looking for that shiny ball, and I'm all for it being an integral part of how we work. But as I say to them, I mean, when you first picked up a handheld calculator, you were engaging with AI. It's progressing more quickly now, but let's just take a step back and say the advances are new and breathtaking, but we know what it is as individuals.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've been here for a long time. I mean, the tool that I've had the privilege of kind of leading for the last 4 years was here a decade and a half before I got here, right? I mean, ML has been around for a really long time. Machine learning has been around, and anything that you buy, anytime you fly, anytime you have something shipped on a boat, anything through telecom has been using ML for decades to navigate all of that. So AI has been here. Now, I mean, with generative AI and the prompting, like natural language engagement, unlocked it to the consumer. And now the consumer sees what a lot of people have been, kind of tinkering with for quite a while. And it's just algorithms. These aren't humans. They don't have feelings. the most recent thing, right, was watching OpenAI switch to GPT-5 and watch the whole world collapse for some individuals that had fallen in love with GPT-4, right? I mean, I have known somebody personally that has gone through that same struggle, that challenge. And it is an eye-opening moment to think that in 2025, we're already to the point where humans have fallen in love with an algorithm. It doesn't mean that it doesn't bring a positive experience to the humans that are looking for guidance and answers. It doesn't mean any of that, but it is interesting how we are able to humanize a lot of the outcomes from these algorithms. Which is so funny because daily I get so frustrated with because they aren't doing what I want them to do. And on the flip side, you have others that may have a different expectation that are falling in love with it because it meets all of their needs. So again, I think depending on what you're using them for and what you're trying to do with it, we're at a different place in the understanding and the capabilities of AI. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about what it is. I mean, so you said it's not human. So behind Watson, there's not like a round table of Mensa. This is really, we're not like the Wizard of Oz on steroids here. This is,
No.
so what is Watson and what, as much as you're allowed to speak to it, obviously,
Sure.
what does it do? What does it help us with?
I mean, it's been doing a lot of the mathematical heavy lifting, trying to make sense, trying to infer, trying to organize and simulate whatever the clients are asking for, right? I mean, Adobe, Verizon, Mercedes, they all have different needs and they all are using our tools in different ways. And so some people may just be looking for tools to help organize their client management system. And some may be looking for what is the future chemical that is going to revolutionize agriculture. And some may be using it to, I don't know, do whatever. And so the goal is to have an LLM that can learn on whatever data you give it, right? And so you can train this model and you can have system prompt and you can have all these weights that can be tuned to make it a little bit more focused for the outcomes that you're looking for. And then you can also provide a really robust data set. And that's the thing. It's like garbage in, garbage out, right? I mean, we've heard it before. If you don't give it a really good data set, you're going to get something that you can't use back. And so I think a lot of the smaller like products that are being launched right now are kind of consumer focused in a way that I have a small task. I don't have a big data set. I want somebody to organize my calendar every week, right? And this AI can kind of do that. But the bigger companies, they have petabytes of knowledge that has been stored for decades and it is not organized, right? And so now we have to go back and organize all of that data and clean it up and turning it into these vector databases of where all this knowledge is again, organized mathematically. And they find a word, they look at the words that are around that word, they try to infer meaning. And that is a collection of numbers. And so it is just a huge algorithm that is organizing those numbers with these numbers and where they are next to other numbers. They don't know what they're really saying. It is just a string of words together, right? Based on numerical values. And so it is fascinating to see the impact of this on society, like that an algorithm can impact society in that way. It's going to be fascinating and scary to see how this all rolls out as consumers really get connected with the tools and the capabilities. Data scientists and AI engineers have been in this world for a while. So I think the biggest proponents and pushback are people that have been in the industry, and the people that are like, let's go, I love this AI, let's keep moving forward, are probably coming from the consumer side.
So John, I listen to this and I think again about the research I'm doing around, human ingenuity, and we talk about human teams, and I've done a lot of work with barriers. Now everybody talks about barriers being time, money, people, or talent. For me, the biggest barrier is the very long list of biases that get woven into a process. Mm-hmm. Could we be swayed by bias in programming?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, and that's actually one of IBM's major focus from my team and the team that's like connected with mine. And so there's a governance team, an ethics team that leads a lot of the efforts that we're moving forward with. And IBM, you don't hear about IBM's models in the news that often because they are very focused. They're not trained on anything that is from the internet. They are trained on business data. They are trained on data that's been cleaned. It doesn't have any personal information in it. And that's why there's a lot of trust in the models that we use. That's why governments and education and military, they use our models because we've done as best as we possibly could to kind of pull the bias out of the data. Models, I think there's a lot of conversations around models from other parts of the world, not from just North America and from Europe. Could we use those? And I think everyone's excited about it. So what we've really tried to do is make our platform, it's agnostic. You could bring in Claude and connect it to your data using our platform. You could use DeepSeek and connect it to your data on our platform. I think if you're a smart individual or a smart company, you can find the tools that work best for you. And if you trust the model and you trust the data based on whatever your governance or ethical parameters are, then move forward with it, right? If you're still not sure, then you just have to do a little bit more due diligence. But is there a future where it's unbiased? Man, that's a tricky question. Is it possible? Probably not if humans are involved. And the problem with AI is that it's trained on human data. And so here we are in a vicious cycle. Yeah.
Anyway, it's just an interesting thing that I've been looking at. So, and obviously, you have too. So, it's amazing talking to you now because, as we said off the top, it's been a few years, and you seem to have made an amazing transition again from traditional design thinking. I'm not sure if traditional is the right way to this cutting edge AI, design around, I don't know, multiple modalities or more modalities. How has that been? How does one sort of beget the other?
Well, I don't know if I have an answer. It's something in my personality that has, the ambiguity doesn't affect me. Some people are like, oh, that's a challenge. I'm never going to be able to jump from one to the other. I guess for me, like I said before, I was a professor for 10 years and I was working in academia, and I just fell in love with helping designers solve wicked problems. When you're helping designers work on those wicked problems, you tend to work with technologists and engineers and project managers and executive that are trying to move the company in a certain direction. And so that part of the connecting the dots with all of those different stakeholders, with my feet still in the design world, that's where I tend to thrive, is that just the connecting of those teams, which tend to be in really wicked edge technology kind of industries. Same thing happened at Branch and now at IBM. Like, my team is amazing and I love working with them and helping them make themselves better designers, but at the same time turning around and talking to distinguished engineers and talking with the C-suite about stuff. I think it's probably a natural progression as you move up, even in traditional design. Your vision opens up to what you're focused on, right? It's a much higher level. Sure, you can jump in and move the pixels around or move the bricks around, but then you got to come back out and think about the executive narrative or think about resource management or whatever. And so it's that kind of moving high and low. It's kind of the same thing that I'm doing now. It's I didn't necessarily go to school for software design or UX or anything like that. So every day I tend to learn more and more just about a lot of the intricacies that go into developing products, digital products. But I think they're scalable, right? I think from architecture to physical products, digital products to service products. Once you have an understanding of the questions to ask and being humble to say, you know what, I don't know what's going on. Can somebody answer this question for me? I think that type of mindset really allows you to do a lot of different things that you thought you might be scared to do. And also looking around the table, realizing that everyone else at the table is, for now, human. And they all have their own lives going on. And so asking those questions is sometimes a nice way to connect the group together. And so maybe that's it. Maybe it's just, has to do less with design and more just about connecting people with problems and solutions. And yeah, it's a roundabout answer.
It's funny, you talked about, you look around the table now and everybody's human, and I'm really, and just, I just, again, human ingenuity, but my goal is to move to ingenuity. And I really want, those little, I guess it's a robot, it wheels around and there's a little screen and talks to you and whatnot. I really want them at the table. I really want people to understand how to speak to or interface with this computer and ask it questions. What's a fact and what's an opinion? What database? How do you do it? But I mean, no matter how you look at it, I mean, boy, does that help you? And I'm longing for the day where it's not just humans around the table, because in my research and whatnot, you can pull out, as you were talking about, finding words and the words around it and that visual thesaurus. I mean, it can do it in fractions of a second.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm looking at my next 2 birthdays trying to do it.
Yeah. Funny things. So I taught at SCAD, Savannah College of Art Design, and we had a dean there, Dean Ermoli, Victor Ermoli.
Victor, yeah.
He had us do this really kind of crazy thing back in the day. I mean, this was probably 2008, 2009, where we would have one student every class that would run Google off in the corner, up on the screen, right? So as we were talking and debating and chatting about whatever, that person's job is to always be listening, finding those keywords and pulling up on the screen. And it would literally just be a visual overload of what the internet was thinking about that topic. And the whole goal was to bring in other ideas, divergent ideas, or did it empower our own ideas? Like it did a lot of pushing and pulling of those topics daily. And I kind of feel AI does the same thing currently, right? Like, you have an idea, you give it a prompt, it gives you back a crap answer, you turn around, you change your prompt. And I think the winners that are going to interact with AI are going to understand themselves and understand the problems they're trying to solve. So I feel like there needs to be, if we're talking about formal higher education, I think there needs to be like a forced requirement for learning about getting your ideas and putting them into creative writing in some way, right? So that you can, not even prompting, but just even communicating those ideas out. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not clear with what you want, you're going to get a random answer back. And sometimes that's okay. Like, I've prompted the model that I use, I prompted it multiple times. I'm like, you know what, push back, stop agreeing with me. Or, you know what, bad idea. Give me 4 new answers in totally different directions, because I don't want you to just make me feel good about what I'm asking you. I want you to be a collaborator, not a tool. And we're getting there, but I think the humans that understand what they're trying to ask are going to get a lot further than those that are just playing. So you need to be really intentional with the system prompts, the data you give it, how that data is organized. I mean, unstructured data, if you just gave it access to your hard drive, it'll be okay. But if you're really clear with how you're organizing your book, your thoughts, all that stuff, it will be the collaborator you're looking for. Yeah.
So, John, you're talking about pushing back with AI. Do they ever use 4-letter words? They just get, really fed up with you and just tell you, don't want to work here anymore. How does that go?
I finally was able to push one to the limit and says, you know what? I have no idea what you're asking for. And it just stopped. And I thought that was great. I was like, finally, after 10 tries, and I was just so fed up with it. And if anybody had walked up behind me and I was just like, nope, not the answer, not the answer, not the answer. It finally was like, John, I have no idea what you're looking for. And I'm sorry, I can't accomplish that. And it said, let's try a different direction. So I thought that was a first, and that was just last week. I wish they were, and I get this, right? I mean, if you're pushing out a consumer product, you don't want it to offend people or hurt people's feelings. cause an issue because social media will just ruin these companies immediately, right? But I don't think the models that are out there I don't think they're the collaborators that we really need. I think we need these machines to push back on us, to help us become better. That's your best teachers are the ones that really push you. And at this point, they're reinforcing. And honestly, I don't think that's what humans need right now. We need some pushback. And so I would try to find the models or create some really amazing prompts to help you become a better human. And I mean, that's what my code word with mine is pushback. And at that point, it flips and it starts just saying everything the opposite and why it should be the opposite of whatever I'm trying to get it to do, because it knows I'm tired of it just reinforcing my ego. And that's one suggestion I would say if people are using their model of choice, whatever it is.
How do you bonus a computer? What does it want if it gives you credit? But
yeah.
Like joking aside, I mean, the pressure it puts on talent managers, not just talent managers, leaders and managers. I mean, you are now collaborating with technology and then humanity, and I'm guessing within seconds or a minute or so of one another. What does that do for you as a leader? What have you had to learn?
Well, it makes Slack a lot more complicated, right? Because you've got chatbots coming in and there's humans coming in. And so you're balancing like all of that. I would flip it. I want to go back to academia because this is, I think, an interesting one because academia is struggling right now of how to interact with AI. Imagine now the students that are going through, and I guess you could move this to young professionals right now. They're using AI for everything, right? To write everything, to interact with every email, to whatever. They're running it through a model. And Copilot's done a really good job of like integrating that into all the tools because it's a great business suite. But those students are going to use that model for every project that they do for that class. And then the next class, and then the next class. And then at the end of those 4 years, that model will know everything the student does and hasn't forgotten any of it, which is unlike the student, which has forgotten most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both going to graduate. The human is going to get the degree, but I would say perhaps the AI should get the degree. It's now been trained on world-class education. But then a company hires that new talent. And are they hiring the AI or are they hiring the young professional, human professional? And then at that point, if they hire that AI, do they own it? Can you even use it internally? Because at some point you're going to leave that company. And now that model has then been trained on everything that's inside that organization. And I think there's going to be some real issues in the future of, this is a really good pair. This model and this human are really good together. And we want to hire them both. And does the human become the handler for the AI model that's getting the jobs? I don't know. I think there's a really fascinating future where, with the right tuning and the right prompts that are secret, you could get some really amazing collaborative teams. But yeah, I don't know what schools are going to do about that. And then HR, who are they hiring? Because sometimes the humans are the creative engine and maybe the AI is the executive engine. Yeah, and sometimes it's those collaborative teams. So,
yeah. Well, it's interesting. Again, it goes back to, human ingenuity and when does artificial intelligence become ingenuity? Because, binary, cognitive, emotional, and gut, 4 levels of intelligence. Computers are great at binary. Cognitive, we're sort of in the middle. Emotional, empathy, reading a room, reading faces, no, and gut, no. And I mean, there's something to be said. I mean, before I went into my first business as an entrepreneur, I sat down with a very successful entrepreneur, he's probably 20, 30 years older than me, and I'm trying to make a decision, and he puts his salt and pepper in front of me. We're in a restaurant, and he goes, "Ken, is it yummy or is it yucky? Make a decision." And that's where he was really pulling on gut intelligence. Just, what do you feel? What do you sense? What do you bring to it? It's not inanimate, but it's sort of baked into your memory of how you approach things. And again, I don't know how long it'll take artificial intelligence to become ingenious, but for now, people have the capacity to be fulsome, and AI doesn't yet, to my knowledge.
Yeah, it's the moat that we have for a little while. As you were talking, I was thinking about there's a lot of companies now that are focused on ambient intelligence, where you have all these sensors that are bringing in different knowledge, right? Cars are a really good example of that. Cars have a ton of sensors, and that AI has to make sense of it in a split second. And is that gut? Is that experience over time? I don't think the Teslas necessarily remember the last intersection or the last intersection or the last intersection, but the main database does, right? Like Elon's database is collecting all of that. All the 3D scans of all the Teslas are being collected, and they're using that to train somewhere else. So like all those sensors, I would say my sensors, my spidey sense gives me a gut feeling, right? So I walk into a room, I don't trust what's going on. My eyes, my ears, my fifth sense there, like something is going on. And so as those sensors and the integration of all those sensors, AI may not know that it's gut, but they're going to know that something doesn't feel right compared to the last time they did something like that. And maybe that's the same as humans. I don't know, but it is definitely the next threshold. And I think that physical next level robotics is where those sensors are going to be critical, where, cars, mobility have been using those sensors for the most right now. Microsoft did it some with their Copilot PC, where they're utilizing all the sensors in the laptop, the location, what the face is doing, what you're working on, what's in your calendar, those kind of sensors and collecting data. But it's going to be really interesting as all of that knowledge transitions to the physical world with robots and androids and stuff like that.
So I'm speaking with John McCabe today, Senior Design Manager for Watsonx at IBM. John, just before we let you go, AI is moving at lightning speed. What's the next big leap in AI-driven design? What's it going to look like?
I think it's going to be physical. Yeah, I think it's taking the knowledge that we've learned from the models and then bringing it into the physical world, having those robots help us with physical tasks. And the really dangerous tasks that the humans shouldn't be doing, right? Can't be doing. So that's, I think, is the next big leap.
John, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support our show, leave us a review and join our mailing list by visiting www.spyder.works. That's SPYDER.works, and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment with who we should interview next. Thank you for listening, and see you all next Friday.